What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to another solo leveling Arise video. Alright guys, brand new weapon for Sung is out. That's right, Jinu's got himself a gun and it goes pew pew and freezes shit a lot. And is it any good? That's going to be the question everyone's going to be asking. Most likely the question on most people's minds, is it better than the Grimoire? So let's talk a little bit about everything you need to know about the gun, the testing that we did, and why I think it is going to actually be the better of the two weapons, but also how they are actually a perfect pairing with one another. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just play devil advocate and do the comparison and why I think SKADI's gun is the new best water weapon in the game. Period. All right. Now, this doesn't mean it's going to replace your Grimoire by any means, but if it does mean between the two of them, what do you choose? This is the suggestion I'm going to give you. And my reasoning behind it, and I'm going to show you guys some gameplay, obviously, that we did during the live stream. So first off, what is SKADI's gun? So it is the brand new SSR weapon that is now customized in the customized banner. You can summon for it. You are going to compete, obviously. Summon video will be dropping earlier this morning. You probably would have seen it. Now, the weapon itself. So when winter hunting is used, that is the skill, by the way. Winter hunting is the skill right here. Okay, so first off, let's just level this up. I don't even have it leveled up, so that's even crazier. That the damage I was doing without the levels. This weapon right here, whenever you cast this skill, what it does is it gives you the SKADI's blessing effect for 7 seconds, and then winter hunting hits, it applies SKADI's curse to the enemy. Pretty straightforward. You get a buff, they get a debuff. Easy enough, right? So what does Last Hunt do? Deals damage equal to 100% of the user's attack to the targets with SKADI's curse effect. Buck wild. Crazy amounts of damage. Inflicts the freeze effect, and then when the Last Hunt skill hits, it removes SKADI's curse effect. So this is the blessing you see. Now what the blessing does also is it increases your user attack by 3% and also your defense penetration by 3%. So it is a completely different effect than the Grimoire. The Grimoire actually gives you 10% of the damage you do during the freeze effect to that enemy. So both are really good. This one is just better overall. The duration is 10 seconds though, keep that in mind, so it will be recast. SKADI's curse, 7 seconds of this curse will be on the opponent, and then of course you do the interrupt. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? So let's go and compare the Grimoire as I mentioned to you guys before. So the Grimoire's A0 is straightforward. When you use water spray, that's the skill, it has a 100% chance to apply cold ice, and then applies freeze. And what cold ice does is when this effect ends, it deals additional damage to the target equal to 10% of their damage taken during that 4-second freeze duration. Okay, so whatever damage you do within that 4 seconds, 10% of that damage is added on to the opponent. So great skill nonetheless. Now let's look at the A1s and see where the difference starts to notice. So Grimoire, A1, applies the deep erosion effect with the cold ice effect. So what it does is it adds an increased damage effect on the target that have an elemental weakness by 24% and lasts for 15 seconds. It's a fantastic debuff. But there's a caveat here, of course, right? Which means you have to bring a weapon that will cause an elemental weakness to that opponent. So for example, let's say you're fighting something that is fire weak element and you only bring, 2 ice weapons. Well, this erosion effect is not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. That extra damage is coming from the fact that you have a elemental weapon that will cause a weakness damage to that opponent. So that's where the caveat here is. Now, if we go back to SKADI for a second and look at the A1 looks a little bit different and it works, in my opinion, much better. So when the Last Hunt is used, create SKADI's domain for 7 seconds. When an attack lands while in the domain, deals damage equal to 50% of the attack. Cooldown is only 0.5 seconds, increases water elemental damage by 10% when used within domain. So not only are you doing the 50% extra damage attack, but you're also getting the water damage. Now this here also is situational. The water damage is only going to apply if the opponent is weak against water, right? So they both have their limitations. The only guarantee here is SKADI's A1 at least will give you that extra 50% of attack versus this one here, which is an actual better effect, but again requires you to have the elemental weakness applied on the opponent, and same with SKADI's for the water damage. So they kind of have their weaknesses in both A1s. Now A2, pretty straightforward. Water damage on one, water damage I believe on the other. This should be pretty much the same, 10%. Balances out right there. Now this is where it gets really good though. A3 for SKADI, you increase attack by 3% now and increase defense penetration by 3%. Now the duration is no longer 10 seconds. Now it's infinite. That's right. And you can stack that up to 4 times. So this is where it starts to take the lead. So A3 version of SKADI versus A3 version of the Grimoire you start to notice a big difference. So when the cold ice effect ends, increase the user's additional damage by 20%. Now that 20% is fantastic, and this is what I'm talking about, where they both work so well hand in hand, right? Having an additional 20% on the opponent plus having your attack increase, right, by this amount and defense penetration by this amount is an incredibly powerful buff and debuff to have. It's amazing. So the two of them working together in synergy is what I was talking about earlier. So why would you choose one over the other? So, but honestly, if you were to choose, the A3 effect here actually has a better lifespan overall, because attack is still stronger than damage up by 20%, believe it or not, especially at this amount, because everything scales off of it. And then defense penetration added on top of that is pretty damn wild, right? So think of it that way. Right, it's quite a bit of attack, quite a bit of defense penetration, and we're talking about percentages here, so it's huge. It's a big one, especially for Jinnu. Now, decrease the cooldown of winter hunting effect by 20%. This one decreases the cooldown of water spray by 20%. So again, balances out there exactly the same. And then A5 enhances the last hunt skill, deals damage equal to 500% of the user's attack, which is insane. It used to be 100%, guys. To the target with SKADI's curse effect, inflicts freeze when the last hunt effect hits, blah blah blah. It's all done, right? This is where it absolutely destroys the Grimoire. The Grimoire here, in my opinion, it doesn't even stand a chance, because here's what you get: increases damage dealt to frozen targets by 50%. Even though that's really good, frozen is not something that's going to happen all the time. There's residual effects on it. It sometimes won't land, etc. Right? Based on how many times you've cast it. So this is where the A5 version of that 500 extra percent, because remember, normally it's 100% of the attack, now it's 500% of the user's attack. So if you add in all of the extra bonuses you just got from SKADI's Blessing, this gun does take over. So it is better than the Grimoire as the ultimate water weapon now, because of all the extra bonuses up to A5. But when it's A1 to A3, they're pretty neck and neck, right? A3, I think the SKADI starts to take over a little bit there, and that's where you're going to start seeing the difference. But again, together, they're the ultimate duo for water weapons. They work so well together, because this gives you buffs and the other one gives the opponent debuffs. They're both amazing weapons together. So with that being said, guys, we did have some gameplay, so let me go show you guys how they work, and we'll talk more about that. And also coming up after that, guys, we did testing on the Vulcan's Rage and the brand new damage it does, so I have some video recordings of that as well too to share. And let me tell you guys, it's looking pretty damn powerful. All right, let's go into some gameplay and we'll talk a little bit about it, okay? All right, guys, back to the live stream that we did last night. If you didn't watch it, or yesterday morning, I should say, if you didn't watch it, go check it out. Now, this is a powerful, powerful weapon. First off, the range is not bad. We're looking at a little bit over Huntsman range. We're probably talking about basic range of the same as Westwind. So if you want to see what the range is, if you don't have the weapon, go check out the Westwind. You guys can easily find out how much range this weapon will have, all right? So secondly, the thing to note about this gun too is the freeze does work really, really well right there. That animation looks badass as hell. So the one thing I will mention is the freeze is faster casting than the Grimoire, and the actual animation is faster casting than the Grimoire, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, in terms of the actual blessing, remember, I have an A0 version of this weapon. So you're going to see the 100% damage whenever that curse hits the opponent, right? So whenever that freeze hits, when my winter hunting goes off, right around there, right? See that right there was a little frost icon on the opponent. That would have been SKADI's curse. So there I would have done 100% more damage. And you can see the bottom right, I'm also getting a flashing icon that has the blizzard effect on there. That's me getting the buff bonus as well. So overall, guys, this weapon is very, very powerful. Now, if you check out the live stream, I was doing a full comparison between the Grimoire and this. So here's the pros and cons of both, okay? So first off, Grimoire, longer cast for the freeze. To the fact that he powers up and the dragons come out, the actual cast animation is longer. Number two, the Grimoire's range though is further. You can definitely hit further with the Grimoire, but it's a slower animation cast. So keep that in mind. From a DPS perspective, SKADI's will do more in that regard, right? So you're gonna definitely get more from that when you're doing the SKADI's gun. Now, the Grimoire obviously does give you a better A1 effect, in my opinion, just because of that 24% bonus. But when you use them together, like I said, they start becoming very, very powerful. And this is where we actually started using both of them in tandem. Okay, so you guys can see here, this is the brand new Battlefield of Chaos, and I have both weapons being used here. I have the gun and I have the Grimoire, and honestly, together they just destroy stuff. Like, again, the Grimoire is good for debuffing, and the SKADI is good for buffing. So you're getting yourself both the best worlds with this gun. You definitely don't want to sleep on having both. And if you guys can keep things frozen, keep things in place, SKADI gun is going to be your main DPS weapon, and just like always, the Grimoire is going to be universal debuffing weapon, right? So you have best of both worlds by having both of these weapons. So if you were to choose one or the other, though, I think SKADI's gun does take a little bit of an edge now as a DPS weapon and as a buffing weapon, but you can't sleep on the Grimoire. So try to get both if you can, but if you had to choose one, I would go with SKADI's. So there you guys go. If you want to check out the rest of the live stream, it is always available to you. You guys can watch the entire duration of it. There's a lot of testing done here, a lot of fun gameplay, and a lot of content that I cover here. So make sure you check it out. Again, this is Payne. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.